Hey folks, so it's been a busy week on the Mech Wars public Discord server, and the reason for that is because of reward mechanics. People are concerned that between this update and the last update, that they're not earning as much silver as they used to, and so all that has led to a fracas, if you will, of discussion about the issue. So the thing that really triggered my interest in this discussion was when Zionage released a silver calculation formula, as shown here. And when I looked at it, I knew immediately it made no sense. And to show that, we'll go and look at an actual game where I scored 4.6 million damage, 27 kills, 3 assists, 2 deaths, and got a 1.27 million payout. If we apply Zionage's formula, what we see though is that I should have received 9.5 million in silver, and that just isn't realistic whatsoever. The important thing is that even if Zionage's calculation was far off, it still gave us some pretty important information, which is that silver payout is a linear function, and that we could go and try to find the coefficients. And of course, me being me, with a background in statistics and data modeling and all sorts of fun stuff, I have the skills to do that. So when trying to reverse engineer reward calculations, in this game or any other, there's several things you have to keep in mind. The first is that are the formulas linear or nonlinear? If they're linear, your workload is going to be a lot less. If they're nonlinear, your workload may be immense, or possibly not even feasible because certain data is withheld from the player. Another question is, do you have reliable data? You have a client app, you have a server. Each one can have different data sets. And if there's conflicts between those data sets, then calculations that occur on the server or on the client might not agree with each other. And that can make your reverse engineering task even more difficult. So once you have those two things in mind, the things you have to ask yourself is, what data do you need? So in this situation, we know that based on what Zionage revealed, that damage and kills assists, those sort of things were all relevant. How much data do you need? Well, since it's linear, you probably don't need a ton, but you do need to be sure to isolate some variables and make sure that you're not doing some things that may cause your analysis to assume correlation between variables because you didn't check for independence and things like that. But anyway, I know how to do this. So this is what I came out with on silver payout multipliers, which is the damage is about 0.16 for the multiplier, kills 309, assists 102, beacon 509, and I had a base value of about 1160 that you just got for playing the game. Now, there might be some small little things going on there, victory versus defeat. I didn't really check those too much, but that was what I needed to make some particular cases that were quite important agree with each other. And so that's what I stuck to once I was started looking at more complex games with more kills assists, and all that. So did the silver payouts change? Well, we have an estimate of the current formula that I independently derived. So all we need is game results from before the current meta to compare. And yes, I have that. Back on December 8th, 2000, I recorded a game, a PvP game between BR and VTSC. It was a lot of fun, and if you want to go back and watch it, I'd recommend it. It's a pretty fun little PvP game. And it was recorded in between the last update and the current update. So we know that this is exactly where we want our data to come from. So here's the victory. I scored 1.2 million damage. I killed 3 players, and I received 391,000 silver and 12 gold. And here we can also see I got 6 assists. I died once. There was no beacon time. I was the top player in terms of damage. I was not the top player in terms of kills. I was the top player in terms of assists. I was not the person who died the most. And if I haven't said already, there was no beacon time at issue in this game. So now we take the actual results and plug in the estimate of my silver formula, the multipliers, to see what we came out to. And I get 333,000 and a half silver. So has silver changed? Well, this discussion has gone on even longer since when I started making this presentation. And what Wildcat had to say is there's a lot of things more than just kills and kills, assists, and damage that go into this. You need to take that into account. And it's sort of more of the same here in all these different comments. You can read them at your leisure, but that is the gist of the discussion. And when I looked at these, I was a bit concerned. I had collected data from 30 games. I had won, I had lost, I'd played solo, I played squads, I played with Bella, I played with Crusher, I played with Rusty, I even played with Alpha. And there was times I was the damage leader, there was other times I was a kill leader, sometimes I was the bottom. There's just so many games I played of different nature, and not a single one of them had shown any large deviation in silver payouts based on the formula I had come up with. And so, I was a bit concerned. And at that point, some people might say, oh, well, obviously Momend is up to something. They must be nerfing silver, right? But the answer is no, I don't think so. And part of the reason for that is Wildcat released an Excel spreadsheet to determine gold and silver payouts. So let's see how that worked out. Here is the calculation based on Wildcat's formula. I plugged in the data from my game, 1.2 million, 3 kills, 6 kills assists, victory true, complete true, top damage true. I assumed that I didn't have the top kill, not that it would matter that much, and I'm in Legend League, so my league coefficient is 1.7. Now on the calculation side, what we see is that between my formula and their formula, things aren't too different. I got a little bit things off on some of these smaller values, nothing too huge. And I say that because damage is really the biggest variable here. But we still see there's a pretty significant discrepancy in terms of the silver and gold. So even with Wildcat's formula, we're just still seeing the same problem. But you also notice we see the same problem with gold, that there's a difference in 2 gold between what Wildcat's formula should say and what we actually got. And so what I suspect here is that we're seeing a client-server conflict over data. The server is calculating the rewards based on the data it has, but that data does not agree with the client. So now we can go to Wildcat's formula and start fixing things. And there's really only 2 things to fix. The first is the amount of kills. We're going to add 1 and make it 4. Now our gold agrees. And then we go to damage and we increase the damage quite a bit. And when we do that, we see that we have a agreement between Wildcat's formula and the corrected data on the left. As a result, my conclusion is that the gold and silver calculations are indeed accurate. The problem, though, is in terms of the data. The server likely recorded much higher damage and an extra kill. The client didn't show this, but then it received the rewards from the server, because that's where you want them to be calculated to avoid hacking, and we had the discrepancy. Now, looking over all the games I recorded, the unfortunate problem is this issue still exists. I didn't find anything with respect to damage. There was no huge amount of difference in damage, but definitely there were a couple instances in the 30 games where the kills and the gold amount received just did not agree with the formulas. You needed 1 or 2 kills in each instance to correct what was going on. And in terms of the calculations, If it's mostly kills and assists that are in error, then my expectation is that SP will be the most thrown off, then gold, so far as kills go, assists don't matter, and then finally silver. So how do we fix this issue? Well, this is what I think Momend needs to do. First, they need to resolve the conflict fairly between the client and the server. So find out why these discrepancies arise, and then make sure that the two are in agreement. The second thing is that they need to provide greater transparency during the game on damage, kills, kill assists, etc. The game somewhat does this now, but it could do it a lot better. It could announce when players exceed certain damage thresholds, and it could also be more consistent on announcing kills and kill assists. That way, if I record a video, I should be able to watch the video and see that what happens during the game, to a large degree, ends up agreeing with the end game calculations. This need not be taken to a ridiculous degree, but I think there's room for improvement. So that wraps up my discussion on the rewards calculations. I hope you found it informative and understand that the issue is not the calculations themselves, probably, but much more a client-server conflict that needs to be resolved, where the solution is one, to fix them fairly, and the second is to improve the transparency so that people have trust between what the game is telling them and what they see. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, I would mightily appreciate if you take the time to like, subscribe, and help the channel grow. Take care, folks, and if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below.